Welcome to the Young Crones Cafe, where you can get a magic brew full of all sorts of information, both witchy and practical.
Grab a cup of coffee and join us. I'm Elizabeth, a wordsmith.
And I'm Dave, a modern-day sage.
We are going to talk about various witchcraft and life topics from a slightly more mature perspective, at least most of the time.
Thanks for joining us.
Here's a little something from the Young Crones Cafe to get us through until our regularly scheduled episode of next week. As I sit here and record this, it's actually Groundhog Day, and Puxatawny Phil did not see his shadow, so tradition has it that we will have an early spring this year. Now, if you look into it and the history of Groundhog Day, it actually started in the 1840s, give or take, in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, where a number of German immigrants had settled. Then they brought this tradition from Germany to here. Now in Europe, they look at a badger, which is a very different type of underground living animal as a groundhog, but you have to adapt with what you have. And that brings us kind of in a roundabout way to what I want to mention today as part of the extra, the idea of folklore and using it for your magic. America is a diaspora, for want of a better word, of all different ethnic groups that have settled here over the years. And many of them brought their own folklore traditions with them that have been passed down and diluted throughout the generations until we arrive at today. Now, I can think of things like the traditional weather saying, which is weather lore that kind of relates to groundhogs, where red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky at morning, sailors take warning, to kind of give you a look at what the weather's going to be 12 hours out, either at night or the next day, depending on what the sun looks like. And this is somewhat accurate and sometimes not. But the idea is that every family tends to have things that they do. If you're lucky enough to have grandparents in your life or older relatives, they probably remember some of the traditions that their families did when they were kids that you can talk to them about and see if any of them are useful for your magic today. Another example from my own family, my grandmother always insisted that everyone have $1 in their pocket or wallet or purse, depending upon their age, for New Year's. The idea is if you had money in your wallet at New Year's, you'd have money throughout the year, which is kind of in its way a simple abundance and money spell. And my grandfather used to have a way to talk to fish that he never really shared with anybody, but if you went fishing with him, you had a pretty good shot at catching at least one fish, more so than the average fisherman's success. So we all have those little traditions. I came to witchcraft later in life, so I never asked my grandparents, but I would love it if those of you who could, who are listening, go out and talk to the older relatives or grandparents, like I said, about those traditions. You don't have to mention the witchcraft connections or that you want to use it for magic if they don't know that you are a practicing person. First and foremost, I'll relish you taking the time to sit and listen to them talk about when they were children. And secondly, it may give you some ideas of things that you can relate to as a tradition within your own family that you may want to teach your children and grandchildren someday about, or at least adapt in some way for your own magic. America is unique in that we are a much younger country than most of European ones and various other cultures like Asian, African, throughout the world. And we have a hodgepodge of different traditions that have kind of mixed and melded together as families married people outside of their own ethnic groups. So we have a unique opportunity to find these traditions and create our own going forward. And as I said, every region has its own folklore too. Check out your local library. There will be stories of things that people did or old collections of journals and things that you can look through. So do some investigating. And if you choose to share some of these traditions that you're finding out about, you're welcome to mail us, email us, or contact us in Discord if you're on our Patreon. which is the Young Crones Cafe. But the idea is, as I said, email E. Chapman at Young Crones Cafe or Dave at Young Crones Cafe, and let us know what you find out. In the meantime, I'm going to enjoy the excitement over the fact that maybe we'll have an early spring if Punxsutawney gets it right. But either way, we can know that spring is coming. The official start of spring is actually 6 weeks from now, so that may have something to do with the tradition. And if you think about it, there are people who practice what they call Imbolc today. And for those of us on the path, Candlemas, the idea of celebrating the returning of light, and we start connecting with the element of fire. So with that being said, happy Candlemas, happy Imbolc, happy Groundhog Day, however you choose to celebrate it. And in the meantime, take some joy in finding out about these traditions. And as always, may you find mirth and reverence in all things.
Well, it looks like the coffee cups are empty for this week. We hope you join us again next Tuesday. But you can find us at our website, 2youngcrones.com. That's the number 2, Young Crones.
We'd love to have you join our growing online Discord community. Check out our new Patreon presence. Just look for Young Crones Cafe. Through Patreon, you'll be able to make it to our Discord. We are also Young Crones Cafe on Twitter and Facebook.
Until then, remember, we are witches who work with energies to effect change.
We are believers in both immanent and transcendent divine.
We are celebrants of the passage of the solar and lunar cycles.
We are hedge walkers who pass back and forth between the worlds of the magical and the mundane.
We are seekers of knowledge.
And we are walkers of a spiritual tradition we call the Path.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.